Welcome into Morning Drive on YouTube, everyone. Well, another chapter has been added to the Patrick Reed saga that began in the Bahamas when Reed improved his lie in a waist area and was assessed a 2-stroke penalty at the Hero World Challenge. We all know the story by now, but Australia's Cam Smith spoke out about the incident just prior to the President's Cup, saying he has no sympathy for anyone who cheats. Well, a report from Australia Golf Digest has surfaced that said the PGA spoke to Smith and warned him of a possible fine in the future if he makes similar comments. So, Robert Darren, what is your initial reaction to this report? Was it appropriate?
Okay, was it appropriate? I understand the tour's a business. I understand the tour doesn't want to deal with it. They would really rather put it in the rearview mirror. They don't want to see anything bad. It's quite a wholesome sport. Cheating is the number one last rule you would ever, break, to do something to benefit your own scorecard on purpose. Yet that's what he did. And to try to tell Cam Smith not to say anything about it is like saying, hey, I know the grass is green, but don't say the grass is green. We saw on video exactly what happened. We know what happened. That's that's the most blatant on video cheating I've ever seen from a professional golfer. So to not be able to say it, that just seems backwards, too.
Now, to be clear, there is language in the PGA Tour handbook that expressly says that if you attack a fellow player, you potentially open yourself up to receive some possible sanctions. But the optics here are horrible. It looks like the Tour is trying to protect Patrick Reed, who brazenly broke a rule, and trying to silence those who are calling him out for it.
Is it attacking when it's that obvious? That's the question.
Well,
You're not attacking.
And that is so incredibly grey. You could say Bryson DeChambeau attacked Brooks Koepka for saying he didn't have 6 abs. Where do you draw the line when it comes to a player attacking another player?
Well, it's a gray area. I think when you look at what the Tour decided to do, and frankly, I'm not surprised. This has been their mantra for years and years and years. Mm-hmm. Very similar to a locker room, internal punishment for an NFL team or for a college team. We're going to handle this internally. But the problem is, this day and age with social media, if this would have happened 25 years ago, the Tour would have gone to Cam Smith or brought Cam Smith and Patrick Reed into the room and said, okay, we're going to settle this right here, right now, and it's going to be the end of it. There's not going to be any exposure. We're not going to take any comments. This is a bad look for the Tour when we have a brethren accusing one of the other. Let's hash it out right here. But with social media now, and you have this reaction, and it leaks from down in Australia, then the Tour has to deal with the repercussions. So they like to keep things internal. They would prefer to keep things internal like this, problems, because it's a sport of gentlemen, and although we compete day to day with each other on a competitive basis, they still see us as a fraternity, and they try to protect us in that way. I don't agree with it, but I think that's what you would expect from the PGA Tour. And like Ryan says, it's in the handbook.
Mm-hmm. And if you look at other sports, whether it's the NBA or the NFL, those hundreds of players in those leagues get fined every single season. They think that voicing their opinion about something that they think is wrong, whether it's the officiating, whether it's a teammate, whatever could be deemed as conduct detrimental to the team or the league, they have viewed that outweighs the threat of a potential fine. So that is where the PGA Tour players could be heading. Robert, I'm curious, how was this type of thing handled when you were on the PGA Tour? Are you taking that player aside the locker room and telling him, or are you potentially going to the media and voicing your displeasure with him?
I'm not. There are people that would. There were guys in our day that were tough dudes. Hal Sutton comes to mind, who, if you did something like that in front of him, you're going to have a talk with him in the locker room, and you're going to have some explaining to do.
So does the PGA Tour need more of that? Players to police each other?
I'm not sure if there is.
I think they expect more of that.
Yeah. I know Brooks has been vocal about some slow play issues with Bryson. We talked about that yesterday. I don't know if the Tour likes that or not really, but that is.
Luckily, it is a very unusual scenario that we saw, as far as we know, with Patrick Reed. But let's face it, Cam Smith was probably posed the question by the media. He didn't just bowl up to the media and became outspoken, because he was asked about it. So when players are put on the spot in front of the media, is it not just their right to give their honest opinion?
It is their right, but some players are going to treat that differently. I can remember years ago in the locker room, there was a player that was acting out on the golf course. It had nothing to do with anyone in the field, but it was in some veteran players' minds that saw it from a fairway over. They didn't like that image, and they cornered that player in the locker room. There were 2 or 3 veteran players that did, and laid down the law. Now, I think the PGA Tour would like to see more of that. Going back to what I said earlier, this internal, in-house policing. But you're exactly right. When a player is asked, that's when everything opens up, and you don't know what is said. And when it is said, how can he be penalized for answering a question? You know, the tour is all about being exposed to the media and being open and expanding the game. But yet, when a player is honest about it,
and I'm sure
he's called
Cam Smith
out.
wasn't the only person who believes that way either.
We're in a strange time right now in sports, whereas we're watching Major League Baseball come down hard on cheating with the Astros and the stealing of signs, come down very hard on them, and we're seeing the tour do the opposite on cheating and kind of let's get it behind us, let's move on and handle it in-house. Whereas in baseball, they are making an effort to make an example of the Astros and saying we're not allowing this anymore.
Well, for more, make sure to subscribe to Golf Channel's YouTube page and tune in to Golf Channel and Morning Drive every day for the latest golf news.